Some stories should never be told. Some secrets should remain buried in the dark corners of abandoned places, locked away from curious eyes. But you clicked on this video. You wanted to know. And now, there's no going back. This is the story of the Holloway Psychiatric Hospital and the last tape that was ever found there. What you're about to hear is based on recovered footage, police reports, and the final testimony of the only survivor. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1K subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show her that these tales matter. It started like so many other stories of our generation. 4 friends, a YouTube channel, and the desperate hunger for views and subscribers. Meet Marcus Webb, 26 years old, the leader of the group and owner of the channel Forbidden Explorations. With 47,000 subscribers, Marcus was always hunting for the next big video, the one that would finally push his channel into viral territory. Sarah Chen, 24, was the researcher and historian of the group. If there was a haunted location within 200 miles, Sarah had a file on it. She believed in the paranormal, truly believed, and she wanted to prove it existed. Tyler Brooks, 25, was the skeptic, a film school graduate who handled the technical side, cameras, sound, editing. He didn't believe in ghosts, but he believed in good content. And finally, there was Emma Rodriguez, 23, the newest member of the group. Emma had just joined 2 months before the incident. She was there for the adventure, for the thrill, and because she had a crush on Marcus that everyone could see except him. On October 15, 2023, these 4 friends packed their equipment into Marcus's van and drove 3 hours north to Millbrook County. Their destination, the Holloway Psychiatric Hospital, abandoned since 1989. They were looking for ghosts. They found something much worse. Sarah had done her research as always. The Holloway Psychiatric Hospital had a dark history, even by the standards of such institutions. Built in 1923, Holloway was designed to house 200 patients. By the 1950s, it held over 800. Overcrowding was just the beginning of its problems. Dr. Richard Holloway, the hospital's founder, was a pioneer in what he called experimental psychiatry. His methods included electroshock therapy, hydrotherapy, and lobotomies. But there were rumors of other experiments, ones that were never officially documented. Patients began to disappear. Families would come to visit and be told their loved ones had passed peacefully in the night or had been transferred to another facility, but no records of deaths or transfers could ever be found.
In 1967, a nurse named Patricia Connolly tried to expose what was happening at Holloway. She went to the local police with stories of midnight procedures, of screams coming from the basement levels, of patients being taken down and never coming back up. 3 days later, Patricia Connolly was found dead in her apartment. The official cause of death was suicide by overdose, but those who knew her said Patricia never took any medications, not even aspirin, and there were bruises on her arms that the coroner's report failed to mention.
The hospital continued to operate for another 22 years. In 1989, a fire broke out in the East Wing. 3 patients and 1 orderly died. The official investigation concluded it was an electrical fire, but witnesses reported seeing someone deliberately setting the blaze. Holloway never reopened. The building was abandoned, left to decay. For 34 years, it sat empty. Empty, or so everyone thought.
Marcus, Sarah, Tyler, and Emma arrived at Holloway just as the sun was setting. Perfect timing, Marcus said. The golden hour light would look great for the intro shots. They parked the van at the edge of the property, behind a cluster of dead trees that hid it from the road. Urban exploration was technically trespassing, and they couldn't afford to attract attention from local police.
As they unloaded their equipment, Sarah shared what she'd learned about recent activity at Holloway. Several other urban explorers had visited the hospital over the years. Most reported the usual things: strange sounds, feelings of being watched, doors that seemed to open and close by themselves. But 3 previous exploration groups had reported something specific, something that made Sarah insist they investigate. Multiple explorers had reported finding a room in the basement, a room that didn't appear on any of the hospital's architectural plans. And in that room, they'd found videotapes, old VHS tapes, dozens of them, stacked on shelves.
The strange thing was, every group that found this room reported the same thing. None of the tapes were labeled. They were all blank, or so it seemed. And whenever explorers tried to take a tape with them, something would happen. Equipment would malfunction. People would become violently ill. One group's car wouldn't start until they returned the tape they'd taken. Sarah was fascinated. Tyler was skeptical. Emma was nervous. And Marcus saw viral content. "We're not just going to find that room," Marcus said as they approached the hospital's main entrance. "We're going to take one of those tapes and play it. We're going to document everything. This is going to be the video that changes everything." He had no idea how right he was. At 7:47 p.m., the group entered Holloway Psychiatric Hospital through a broken window on the ground floor. Marcus went first, camera rolling, with Tyler following to capture secondary footage. Sarah carried the EMF detector and digital recorder, while Emma brought up the rear with additional lights and batteries. The smell hit them immediately. Decades of rot, mildew, and something else. Something organic and wrong. Tyler would later describe it as the smell of a place where hope went to die. The main reception area was a chaos of debris. Patient records were scattered across the floor, faded and water-damaged. An old wheelchair sat in the corner, one wheel slowly spinning despite no apparent wind. Through the decades of decay, you could still see traces of what the hospital had been: the tiled floor, the wooden reception desk, the signs pointing to different wards. "This is perfect," Marcus whispered to his camera. "Guys, we are inside the infamous Holloway Psychiatric Hospital. This place has been abandoned for over 30 years, and tonight we're going to uncover its secrets." Sarah checked her equipment. The EMF detector was reading normal. The digital recorder was running. Everything seemed stable. Too stable, she would later tell police. Places like this usually had some ambient activity, some electromagnetic fluctuations. But Holloway was reading completely flat. It was as if the building was holding its breath. They decided to do a quick survey of the ground floor before heading to the basement. The plan was to capture some atmospheric footage, get a sense of the layout, and then make their way to the mysterious tape room. It was a good plan, reasonable, safe. They never got a chance to follow it. They had been inside for less than 15 minutes when things started to go wrong. Emma was the first to notice. She had stopped in front of a patient room, shining her light inside. The room was empty, except for a rusted bed frame and a pile of moldy mattresses. But on the wall, someone had written something. "Guys," she called out, "you need to see this." The words were carved into the plaster. "Don't watch the tapes." It was written over and over, covering an entire section of wall. The letters were rough, uneven, as if they'd been carved with fingernails. And underneath the words, there were dark stains, reddish-brown, old blood. "Okay, that's creepy as hell," Tyler said, filming the wall. "But it's probably from another explorer group, trying to add to the mystique of the place." Sarah wasn't so sure. She examined the scratches carefully. "These aren't fresh. Look at the oxidation on the exposed plaster. This has been here for years, decades maybe. Marcus filmed everything, his enthusiasm undimmed. "This is gold," he said. "This is exactly the kind of thing viewers want to see. The mystery, the warnings, it's perfect setup." But Emma was still staring at the wall. "What if it's a real warning?" she asked quietly. "What if we should listen?" Marcus laughed. "Then we wouldn't have a video. Come on, Em, you know this stuff isn't real. It's just atmosphere, spooky ambiance left by people who came before us." Emma didn't look convinced, but she followed as the group moved deeper into the hospital. The basement entrance was behind a locked metal door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." Tyler made quick work of the lock with a bolt cutter they'd brought for just such obstacles. The door opened with a groan of rusted hinges, revealing a staircase that descended into absolute darkness. The smell that wafted up was worse than anything they'd encountered so far. A mixture of damp earth, decay, and something chemical that burned the back of the throat. "Second thoughts?" Marcus asked, grinning. No one answered, but no one turned back either. The descent seemed to go on forever. The stairs were steep and slick with moisture. Water dripped from somewhere above, and their footsteps echoed in a way that made it sound like there were more than 4 people walking. Sarah's EMF detector suddenly came to life, beeping frantically. "I'm getting readings," she said, her voice tight with excitement or fear. It was hard to tell which. "Strong electromagnetic fluctuations. Something down here is generating a significant field." "Or there's just old electrical equipment," Tyler countered, but he didn't sound certain anymore. The basement was a maze of corridors and rooms. According to the hospital plans Sarah had found, this level had housed the hydrotherapy rooms, the electroshock therapy chambers, and the morgue. But there were doors down here that led to places not marked on any map. They checked several rooms. Most were empty or filled with broken medical equipment. In one room, they found ancient hydrotherapy tubs, still filled with decades-old water that had turned black and viscous. In another, the remains of electroshock therapy machines stood like torture devices in the beam of their flashlights. But they hadn't found the tape room yet. It was Emma who found it. She had wandered slightly ahead while Marcus and Tyler were filming the morgue. Her flashlight caught something that didn't quite fit, a door that was cleaner than the others, less corroded. And unlike every other door in the basement, this one was still locked. "Guys," she called out, "I think I found it." The group gathered around the door. It was heavy steel, industrial grade, with a combination lock that looked newer than anything else in the hospital. Someone had maintained this door recently. Tyler examined the lock. "This is weird. This lock is maybe 10, 15 years old. Someone's been down here. Someone's been keeping this room secure." "Can you open it?" Marcus asked, camera still rolling. Tyler pulled out his tools. It took him 20 minutes and 2 broken picks, but eventually the lock clicked open. Marcus grabbed the handle. He paused for just a moment, and in that moment, Emma would later swear she heard him say something under his breath. It sounded like, "Please be something good." Then he pulled the door open. The room was exactly as other explorers had described it. 3 walls lined with metal shelving, and every shelf was packed with VHS tapes. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They were all in black cases, and none of them were labeled. But that wasn't what made them all freeze in the doorway. In the center of the room was a chair, a simple wooden chair, facing away from the door. And sitting on that chair, perfectly still, was a figure. For several heartbeats, no one moved, no one even breathed. The figure didn't move either. It sat perfectly still, shoulders slumped, head tilted forward slightly. "Is that?" Emma whispered. "Is that a person?" Tyler stepped forward, his flashlight beam steady on the figure. As he got closer, they could all see it more clearly. It was a mannequin, an old medical mannequin, the kind used for training. It was dressed in a hospital gown, and in its lap was a VHS tape. "Okay, that's officially creepy," Tyler said, but he was smiling. "Someone's been setting the scene. This is like elaborate set dressing for urban explorers." Marcus was already in the room, filming everything. "This is incredible! Sarah, get some readings. Tyler, make sure you're getting all of this. Emma, can you check those tapes?" But Sarah wasn't moving. She was staring at her EMF detector, her face pale. "Something's wrong," she said. "The readings, they're off the scale. I've never seen numbers like this. It's like there's a massive power source in this room, but there's no electricity down here. There hasn't been power in this building for 34 years. Tyler went to one of the shelves and pulled down a tape at random. He examined it carefully. No label, no markings. These look old, like really old. The plastic's degraded in that way VHS tapes do when they're from the 80s. "Are they all the same?" Marcus asked. "I don't know. Let me check." Tyler pulled down several more tapes. They all looked identical. Black cases, no labels, aged plastic. He opened one case. Inside was a VHS tape, but there was something written on the tape itself in faded black marker. Tyler had to squint to read it in the flashlight beam.
The tape was labeled Patient 7, Session 23, Do Not View. Tyler checked another tape, Patient 3, Session 45, Do Not View. Another, Patient 12, Session 8, Do Not View. Every tape they checked had a similar label, a patient number, a session number, and the same warning, Do Not View. "These are therapy session recordings," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Dr. Holloway must have recorded his sessions with patients. But why the warning? Why would they all say, Do Not View?" Marcus picked up the tape that had been sitting in the mannequin's lap. This one was different. The case was clean, not dusty like the others, and there was a label on the case itself, written in fresh red marker, "Watch Me." "Well," Marcus said, grinning at the camera, "I think we just found our featured content." Emma grabbed his arm. "Marcus, this is wrong. All of this is wrong. We should leave. We should go now and call the police or something. Let them deal with whatever this is." "Call the police and tell them what?" Marcus pulled his arm free gently. "That we broke into an abandoned building and found some old tapes? They'd arrest us for trespassing. Look, we came here for content. This is content. We're going to take this tape, we're going to play it, and we're going to document everything. That's what we do." Tyler was examining the tape. "We'd need a VCR. We didn't bring one." "There might be one upstairs in one of the offices," Sarah suggested. "Places like this usually had VCRs for training and educational purposes." They split up to search faster. Marcus and Tyler went back to the ground floor to check the administrative offices. Sarah and Emma stayed in the basement to document the tape room and gather more information. It took 40 minutes, but Marcus and Tyler eventually found a VCR in what had been the hospital administrator's office. It was old, probably hadn't been used since the hospital closed, but it looked intact. They also found an old CRT television in the staff break room. Tyler checked the connections. Everything was compatible. They could make it work. But there was a problem. No power. The hospital's electricity had been shut off decades ago. "The van has a generator," Marcus said. "We can run an extension cord in through the window. It'll work." Tyler nodded slowly. "Okay, but Marcus, are we sure about this? I mean, really sure? Because something about all of this feels orchestrated. The locked room, the mannequin, and the tape labeled Watch Me. Someone wanted us to find this. Someone wanted us to play it." Marcus looked at his friend in the dim light of their flashlights. "You really think someone's been maintaining that room for 34 years just to prank urban explorers?"
No, Tyler said. That's what worries me. If it's not a prank, then what is it? They decided on the hospital's old patient common room for the viewing. It had enough space for all their equipment and cameras. More importantly, it had large windows that made running the extension cord from the van relatively easy. By 11:30 p.m., they had everything set up. The generator hummed outside, feeding power through 200 feet of extension cord. The old CRT television crackled to life, showing nothing but static. The VCR's power light glowed red. Marcus set up his main camera on a tripod aimed at the TV. Tyler positioned a second camera to capture the group's reactions. Sarah had her recording equipment ready. Emma stood near the door, arms crossed, clearly uncomfortable with the whole situation. Okay, Marcus said to his camera. It's 11:37 p.m. We are about to play a tape we found in the Holloway Psychiatric Hospital. This tape was specifically left for people to find. The label says, "Watch me." We don't know what's on it, but we're going to document everything that happens. Here we go. He inserted the tape into the VCR. The machine whirred, clicked, and the tape began to play. On the television screen, the static cleared, and what they saw would haunt them for the rest of their lives.
Please subscribe to my channel by clicking the subscribe button, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. Now let's continue.
The footage was black and white, grainy and jumping with tracking lines. The timestamp in the corner read March 15th, 1987. The scene showed a small room with concrete walls. A man in a white coat sat in a chair, holding a clipboard. Across from him, strapped to another chair with leather restraints, was a patient. The patient was a young woman, maybe 25 years old. Her hair was long and tangled. Her eyes were wide, unnaturally so, and she wasn't blinking. She stared directly at the camera with an intensity that was immediately disturbing. The man in the white coat spoke first. His voice was calm, clinical. "This is Dr. Richard Holloway, recording session 23 with patient 7. Patient 7 has been with us for 47 days. Patient 7 claims to see things that others cannot. She claims that reality is thinner in some places, and that in those places other things can see through. Today we will continue our attempts to understand and document these claims." Dr. Holloway on tape. "Patient 7, can you describe what you're seeing right now?" The patient didn't respond immediately. She continued to stare at the camera, unblinking. Then, slowly, her lips moved. "It sees you." Marcus, Tyler, Sarah, and Emma watched in silence. There was something deeply wrong about the footage, beyond just the age and quality. The patient's stillness was inhuman, and her eyes seemed to track movement, even though the footage was static, recorded decades ago. Dr. Holloway continued. Dr. Holloway on tape. "What do you mean, it sees me? What is it?" Patient 7. "The thing that watches, the thing that waits. It's in the spaces between. It sees through the cameras. It always sees through the cameras." Dr. Holloway on tape. "Patient 7, we've discussed your delusions. There is nothing in the... It sees the people watching. It's seeing them right now. 4 of them in a room, watching this tape." The room fell silent. On the tape, which was recorded in 1987, the patient had just described them. 4 people watching a tape in a room. "What the fuck?" Tyler whispered. On the tape, patient 7 continued speaking, her eyes still locked on the camera. Patient 7. "It knows you now. It's been waiting so long for someone to watch. You've opened the door. You've let it see you, and now it will never stop watching." Emma stood up. "Turn it off! Turn it off right now!" But no one moved. They were all transfixed by the television screen.
Dr. Holloway on the tape seemed disturbed now, his clinical composure cracking. Dr. Holloway on tape, how could you possibly know? Because it tells me, it shows me, it's showing me everything. The man with the camera, Marcus, the man with the headphones, Tyler, the woman with the glasses, Sarah, and the girl who wants to run, Emma. She said their names. On a tape recorded 36 years before they were born, a mental patient said their names.
Sarah was the first to find her voice. "This isn't possible. This is some kind of elaborate hoax. Someone edited this tape. Someone who knew we were coming." But even as she said it, she knew it didn't make sense. How could anyone know they were coming? They hadn't told anyone about this trip. And the tape looked authentically old. The degradation, the video quality, even the timestamp matched 1987 technology perfectly. On the television, patient 7's face suddenly changed. Her expression, which had been blank and staring, twisted into something that might have been a smile, but was far too wide to be human. "You should run, but you won't. You need to know. You need to see. So watch. Keep watching. Watch what happens to Dr. Holloway. Watch what happens to me. And when you're done watching, it will be your turn."
The tape continued playing. The scene changed. Now patient 7 was strapped to a medical table in what looked like a surgery room. Dr. Holloway stood over her with several other figures in white coats and surgical masks. The timestamp now read March 15th, 1987, 11:47 p.m. Dr. Holloway's voice on the tape was strained. Patient 7 continues to exhibit delusions with specific details about future observers. This session will attempt to locate the neurological source of these delusions through deep brain stimulation and mapping. What followed was difficult to watch. The doctors began a procedure on patient 7's brain while she was conscious. They didn't even use anesthetic. Apparently, they needed her awake to monitor her responses.
Patient 7 didn't scream. That was the worst part. She lay completely still, even as the doctors worked on her exposed brain. But she was talking, constantly talking. "It's closer now. The watchers have given it permission. Every second they watch, it gets closer. Marcus can feel it, behind him, in the corner where the shadows are darkest. Tyler thinks it's just his imagination. Sarah wants to believe there's a scientific explanation. And Emma knows the truth. She's always known." Emma was backing toward the door now. How? How does she know these things? I do feel like something's behind me. I've felt it since we entered this room. Marcus grabbed Emma's hand. "It's just the power of suggestion. She makes you think you feel something, and your brain creates the sensation. It's a psychological trick." But Marcus was lying. He felt it too. They all did. The sensation of being watched by something that wasn't human, something that was getting closer with each passing second. On the television, one of the doctors suddenly jerked backward, dropping his instrument. He pointed at patient 7's exposed brain, his voice shaking. "Dr. Holloway, her brain activity. This isn't possible. She's showing activity in regions that don't exist. These neural pathways, they're not in any medical literature. It's like she has additional structures that aren't supposed to be there." Dr. Holloway leaned closer to examine the readings. His hands were shaking now. Dr. Holloway on tape. "Document everything, every reading, every anomaly. This changes everything we know about human neurology." Patient 7 on tape. "It's not human neurology, doctor. It changed me. When I looked into the thin places, when I saw it watching, it looked back. And when it looks at you, you change. You become a bridge, a doorway. And now you've looked too, Doctor. You've been looking at me for 47 days, and it's been looking at you." Dr. Holloway stepped back from the table. In the grainy footage, his face was pale, his eyes wide. "That's enough. End the procedure. Sedate her. We'll continue tomorrow." "There is no tomorrow for you, Doctor, just like there's no tomorrow for the Watchers. You all looked, you all saw, and now you belong to it." The tape began to distort. The image wavered, lines of static cutting across the screen. But through the distortion, they could still see Patient 7 on the table, and she was looking directly at the camera again, directly at them. Patient 7 on tape. "Do you see it yet? Behind you? In the corners? It's not in the hospital with you. It's in the space between the tape and your eyes. In the transmission. In the watching itself." Tyler grabbed the VCR. "I'm turning this off." But when he pressed the stop button, nothing happened. He pressed eject. The VCR made a grinding sound, but the tape kept playing. He pressed the power button. The red light stayed on. "It's not stopping," Tyler said, his voice rising with panic. "The VCR isn't responding."
Sarah ran to the window and grabbed the extension cord, ready to pull it from the generator. But before she could, Patient 7's voice came from the television, loud and clear despite the distortion. "You can't stop watching. You're already caught. The tape is playing behind your eyes now. You'll see it even when the screen goes dark." Sarah yanked the extension cord free. The television went dark immediately, the VCR's light dying. But in the sudden darkness, illuminated only by their flashlights, they all saw something that made their blood run cold. The television screen wasn't completely dark. There was an image there, very faint, still visible. Patient 7's face, staring out at them, and she was smiling. "That's not possible," Tyler whispered. "There's no power. The screen should be completely black. There's no way for an image to persist without—" He stopped talking because the image on the dead screen was moving. Patient 7's head was turning, slowly, as if trying to see around the room. Emma screamed. Marcus spun around, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. "What? What did you see?" Emma was pointing at the corner of the room, the darkest corner, where their lights hadn't reached. "There's something there, in the corner. I saw it move." They all turned their lights toward the corner. At first they saw nothing, just the junction of two walls, some old chairs stacked there, a pile of debris. Then Tyler's flashlight flickered, just for a second, but in that second of darkness, they all saw it. A figure, standing in the corner, impossibly tall, impossibly thin, and when the light came back on, it was gone. "We need to leave," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "We need to leave right now." No one argued. They began grabbing their equipment, moving quickly but trying not to panic. Marcus unplugged the VCR and television, coiling the extension cord. Tyler gathered the cameras. Sarah packed her recording equipment. Emma stood frozen, staring at her phone. "Guys, we have a problem." They all looked at her phone screen. She was trying to call 911, but there was no signal, no bars, nothing. "That's weird," Tyler said, pulling out his own phone. "We had signal when we arrived. I checked." Tyler's phone showed the same thing. So did Sarah's. So did Marcus's. All four phones, different carriers, all suddenly had zero signal. "It's the building," Marcus said, trying to sound rational. "Concrete and steel. We just need to get outside." They moved toward the door, but as Marcus reached for the handle, the door slammed shut. Not drifted closed, not blown by wind. It slammed with tremendous force, hard enough to rattle the frame. Marcus grabbed the handle and pulled. The door didn't move. He pulled harder,
Nothing. "It's locked," he said, "from the outside, but that's not possible. There's no one else here."
Tyler joined him, and together they pulled on the door. It didn't budge. It felt like the door was sealed, as if it had become part of the wall. Behind them, the television turned on. They all spun around. The TV glowed with static, even though it wasn't plugged in. The VCR beside it was also displaying power, its red light glowing steadily. And then the tape started playing again. The static on the screen cleared. The tape was still playing, but now it showed a different scene, a different date. The timestamp read March 16th, 1987, 3:24 a.m. The scene showed an empty corridor in the hospital. The camera was stationary, pointed down a long hallway lined with patient rooms. Nothing moved. The corridor was silent, empty. Then, from the far end of the hall, something appeared.
At first, it looked like a person walking down the corridor. But as it got closer, details became clear that made it obvious this was not a person. It was too tall, its limbs were too long, and it moved wrong with a stuttering, jerking motion, as if it existed slightly out of sync with reality. The figure walked directly toward the camera, getting larger in frame, and as it got closer, they could see it had no face. Where its face should have been was just smooth, blank surface, like a mannequin. Like the mannequin they'd found in the tape room.
Emma was crying now, backing away from the television.
"Turn it off! Please, someone turn it off!" "It's not plugged in," Marcus shouted. "There's no way to turn it off."
The figure on the screen kept walking. It was close to the camera now, its featureless face filling half the screen, and then it stopped. It stood perfectly still, facing the camera, facing them. And then, impossibly, it raised one too long arm and pointed, not at the camera in the recording, at them, directly at them through the screen. Behind them, something moved in the corner of the room. They all heard it, the sound of wood scraping on concrete, of something shifting in the darkness. Tyler spun his flashlight toward the corner. The pile of chairs they'd seen earlier was moving, not falling over, moving, rearranging themselves. And in the center of the rearranging furniture, a shadow was growing darker, deeper, more solid. "It's here," Sarah whispered. "It's actually here. It came through the tape. Patient 7 was telling the truth. Watching the tape opens a door, and it can come through." The shadow in the corner was taking shape now. It was forming into something similar to the figure on the television. Tall, thin, wrong. But this one was here with them in the room, becoming more solid with each passing second. Marcus did the only thing he could think of. He picked up a chair and threw it at the television. The chair struck the screen dead center. The glass shattered, pieces flying across the room. For a moment, there was silence. The television was destroyed, its screen a mess of broken glass and exposed electronics. The glow faded. But the shadow in the corner didn't disappear. If anything, it became more solid. "The door!" Tyler screamed. "Try the door again!" Marcus and Tyler threw themselves at the door, pulling, pushing, kicking. The door remained sealed. Sarah was on her knees, her EMF detector in her hands, staring at the readings. "The electromagnetic field in this room is off every chart I have. It's like reality is tearing. The fabric between dimensions is getting thinner." Emma grabbed Sarah's shoulders. "Can you stop talking like a researcher and help us get out of here?" But Sarah looked up at her with empty eyes. "We're not getting out. Don't you understand? The tape showed us the truth. Patient 7 tried to warn Dr. Holloway, tried to warn us. Once you watch, once you see it, it has you. It's already inside our heads. It's already behind our eyes."
The shadow had fully formed now. It stood in the corner, as tall as the ceiling, its blank face tilted toward them. And then it moved. Not walked, not stepped. It moved the way things move in dreams, where one moment it's far away, and the next moment it's right in front of you, with no transition in between. One instant it was in the corner. The next instant it was standing directly behind Emma. She felt it before she saw it, felt its presence like a wall of cold at her back. She turned, slowly, knowing what she would see.
The figure looked down at Emma. It raised one long arm and placed its hand on her shoulder. Where it touched her, Emma's skin turned gray, the color spreading from the point of contact like frost spreading on glass. Emma opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. Her eyes were wide, fixed on the blank face above her, and then she spoke. But it wasn't her voice. It was Patient Seven's voice, coming from Emma's mouth. It sees through me now. It wears me like a window, and through this window it will find all of you. Tyler was filming everything, his camera still rolling despite the horror unfolding in front of him. Perhaps it was habit, perhaps it was shock, or perhaps some part of him knew they needed documentation of what was happening. Marcus grabbed Emma, trying to pull her away from the figure, but its hand remained on her shoulder, impossibly strong. Where it touched her, the gray coloration was spreading, creeping up her neck, across her collarbone. Sarah was looking through her research notes on her phone, scrolling frantically. "The fire," she said, "the fire that closed the hospital. It happened on March 17th, 1987, one day after that last timestamp we saw on the tape." She looked up at the others. "Dr. Holloway set the fire. It's in the old police reports. They found evidence of deliberate arson, but by the time they figured it out, Holloway was gone. He disappeared. They never found him."
"He saw what was happening," Sarah continued, her voice getting faster, more frantic. "He realized that what Patient 7 said was true. The experiments, the recordings, they opened something. They created a bridge. So he tried to destroy the evidence. He tried to burn it all. But the tapes survived. They were down in the basement, in that sealed room. They survived the fire." Marcus was still struggling with the figure, but it was like fighting smoke. His hands passed through parts of it, yet it remained solid where it touched Emma. "So what do we do? How do we stop it?" "You can't stop it," Emma said in Patient 7's voice. "Dr. Holloway tried. He burned the hospital. He destroyed his research. He even destroyed himself. But the tapes remained. The recordings remained. And anything recorded can be played. Anything played can be watched. And anything watched opens the door again." The broken television flickered back to life. Impossibly, despite the shattered screen, it displayed an image, a new recording. Dr. Holloway sat in his office, alone. The timestamp read 2:15 a.m., March 17th, 1987. The doctor looked nothing like he had in the earlier footage. His hair was wild, his eyes bloodshot and wide. He spoke directly to the camera. Dr. Holloway, on tape. "My name is Dr. Richard Holloway. If you're watching this, then I've failed. I've tried to destroy the tapes, but they won't burn. I've tried to bury them, but they return. I've tried to hide them, but people keep finding them. They want to be found. They want to be watched." He laughed, a sound that had no humor in it. Dr. Holloway on tape. Patient 7 was right about everything. There are thin places in reality, and through those thin places, things can look through. But I made it worse. By recording her, by documenting her episodes, I created a permanent thin place, a window that can never be closed. Dr. Holloway stood up and moved to a cabinet in his office.
He pulled out a can of gasoline. The only way to stop it is to make sure no one watches. But how do you ensure that? How do you keep people from watching tapes labeled "Do Not View"? Human curiosity is too strong. Someone will always watch. Someone will always open the door. He began pouring gasoline around his office, methodical, careful to coat everything. So I'm going to burn it all. The hospital, the research, the patients, everything. And then I'm going to disappear. Maybe if there's no one left who knows the truth, it will starve. Maybe it needs witnesses to exist. Maybe without us to see it, it will fade back into wherever it came from. He poured gasoline over himself.
Dr. Holloway looked directly at the camera one last time. Dr. Holloway on tape. But if you're watching this, then I was wrong. The tape survived, and now you've watched. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. What happens next? It's my fault, but it will happen to you. He flicked the lighter. The recording cut to static before the flames appeared. Emma had stopped struggling. The gray coloration had spread across half her body now, creeping like ice across her skin. Her eyes had changed, too. They were wider now, unblinking, just like Patient 7's had been in the footage. When she spoke, it was still Patient 7's voice, but there was something else underneath it now, something deeper, older, wrong. Dr. Holloway's sacrifice was meaningless. The tapes survived. They always survive. They want to be watched. They need to be watched, because every viewing opens the door a little wider. Every watcher becomes a bridge, and we've been waiting so long, so very long. We needed you to find this place. We needed you to play the tape.
Marcus lunged forward and grabbed Emma's hand, the one that wasn't gray yet. "Emma, fight it! I know you're still in there!" For just a moment, Emma's eyes cleared. Her own voice broke through, terrified and desperate. "Emma, run! It's in my head! I can feel it behind my eyes, just like she said. It's using me to see you, to know you. When it's done with me, it will come for you next. You have to..." Her voice cut off. The gray spread across her remaining skin in a rush. Her eyes went wide and blank again. And then Emma smiled. It was the same too wide smile that Patient 7 had worn on the tape. Inhuman. Wrong. "Too late," Patient 7's voice said through Emma's mouth. "She belongs to us now, just like the other watchers, just like you will soon belong to us." Tyler was still filming, his camera trained on Emma's transformation, but his hands were shaking so badly the footage was barely usable. In his panic, he accidentally hit the playback button on his camera, switching it to review mode. The screen showed footage from earlier in the night, the group entering the hospital, walking through the corridors, descending to the basement. And in every shot, visible in the background, there was a figure. The same tall, thin, faceless figure. It had been following them since they entered Holloway. It had been there all along, just out of direct sight, always in the corner of the frame. "Oh God," Tyler whispered. "It's been here the whole time. We brought it with us. No, we didn't bring it. It brought us. It wanted us here." Sarah looked at Tyler's camera screen and felt something break inside her mind. The rational, scientific part of her that had always believed there was an explanation for everything. It shattered. "It's been hurting us," she said quietly. "Every room we chose to explore, every door that was locked or open, it was guiding us to the basement, to the tape room, to the tape labeled 'Watch Me.' This was all planned. We never had a choice." Marcus shook his head violently. No, that's not...
We have free will. We chose to come here. We chose to play the tape. Did we? Sarah asked. Or did it make us want to choose that? How many other urban explorer groups came here and never found that room? How many found it but didn't play the tapes? What made us different? What made us special? She laughed, bitter and broken. We're not special. We're just the ones it wanted, the ones susceptible enough to manipulation. It's been in our heads since we entered this building, planting suggestions, making us curious about the right things.
Marcus refused to accept defeat. He grabbed one of the camera tripods and began using it as a battering ram against the door. Tyler joined him, and together they slammed the metal legs against the wood over and over. Behind them, Emma, or what had been Emma, stood perfectly still, watching with her two wide eyes. The tall figure stood beside her, its hands still on her shoulder. Neither moved, they just watched. After 20 hits, the door cracked. After 30, a split appeared in the wood. Hope surged through Marcus and Tyler. Just a little more, just a few more hits. The door exploded outward, but it wasn't because of their battering. Something had kicked it open from the other side, something that had been waiting in the hallway. In the hallway stood more of them, not just one figure, but dozens, all tall, all thin, all faceless. They stood motionless, creating a wall of bodies between the group and any possible exit. Tyler stumbled backward, his camera still running, capturing everything. There's so many of them. How are there so many? Sarah's voice was dead, empty of emotion. Every time someone watches the tape, it creates a new bridge. Every viewer becomes a doorway. How many people have watched over the years? Other explorers, researchers, Dr. Holloway's staff, maybe even patients, forced to watch as part of experiments. Every single one of them opened a door, and now all those doors are open at once. One of the figures in the hallway moved forward. Unlike the others, this one wasn't faceless. It had a face, but it was wrong. Features that shifted and flowed like melting wax, never settling into one complete image. When it spoke, its voice was a chorus of every victim, speaking in unison. You wanted to explore the forbidden. You wanted to see what others couldn't see. And now you do. Now you see everything. The spaces between. The watchers in the dark. The truth that Dr. Holloway tried to hide. How does it feel to finally understand?
Please subscribe to my channel by clicking the subscribe button, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. Now let's continue. The figures parted, creating a path, not toward an exit, but deeper into the hospital, toward the basement, toward the tape room. Walk, the chorus of voices commanded. It wasn't a request. Marcus, Tyler, and Sarah had no choice. With figures behind them and figures in front, they walked. Down the hallway, down the stairs, through the basement corridors they'd explored just hours ago, though it felt like days. Back to the tape room. The door stood open. Inside, the tapes glowed with a faint luminescence, as if each one contained a small, dying star. The mannequin was still there, sitting in its chair, but now it moved its head to track their entry, its blank face turned toward them. The entity with the shifting face entered behind them. It gestured toward the tapes. Each tape contains a session, a moment when a patient saw through the veil. Dr. Holloway thought he was studying mental illness, but his patients weren't insane. They were awake. They could see what others couldn't. And when Dr. Holloway recorded those moments, he trapped those perceptions forever. Sarah stepped closer to the shelves, drawn despite her terror. She picked up a tape at random.
The faded writing said, "Patient 23, Session 77, do not view." That patient saw us for 3 hours before her heart gave out from fear. Every second of her seeing, every moment of her knowing is trapped in that tape. And when someone plays it, they see what she saw. They know what she knew. And we can see them seeing us.
Tyler was still filming, documenting everything out of pure instinct. So what do you want? Why trap us here? Why not just kill us? The entity's face shifted, settling into something almost human for just a moment. Kill you? No, you're not food. You're not prey. You're witnesses. You're bridges. Through you, we can see your world. And through your video, others will see us. You'll upload this. You'll share it. And everyone who watches will open another door. Marcus's face went pale. No, we won't. We'll delete everything. We'll destroy the footage. You say that now, but you need the views. You need the subscribers. You came here for content, remember? And this is the greatest content you'll ever have. The views will be incredible. Millions will watch, and every single one of them will become like Patient 7, like Emma, like you're about to become.
Marcus looked at his camera, still recording faithfully. Hours of footage. The entry, the exploration, the tape playing, Emma's transformation, the entities revealing themselves. Everything documented in perfect detail. And he realized the entity was right. Even if they escaped, even if they survived, he would post this video. Maybe not right away. Maybe he'd tell himself he was sharing it as a warning. Maybe he'd convince himself people needed to know. But deep down, he'd do it for the same reason he did everything. For the views, for the channel, for the success, for that golden moment of virality. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." Sarah grabbed his arm. "Marcus, don't listen to it. We can fight this. We can—" But she stopped because she saw Marcus's eyes. They were changing, getting wider, losing their ability to blink. The gray was starting to spread across his skin. "It's in my head," Marcus said, his voice flat. "I can feel it watching through my eyes. I can feel myself becoming a window. And the worst part is, I understand now. I understand what Patient 7 was trying to tell us. It's not evil. It's not cruel. It just is. It exists in the spaces between, and it needs us to exist fully in our world. We're not victims. We're collaborators." Tyler backed away from his friend. No, Marcus, fight it. This isn't you talking." Marcus turned to look at Tyler, and his smile was exactly like Emma's had been. Too wide, too knowing. "Isn't it? Who decided to come here? Who insisted we play the tape? Who's been chasing views and subscribers and viral content since the beginning? That was all me, Tyler. My ambition, my choices. It just gave me what I wanted, what I always wanted, to be seen." Tyler was alone now. Emma transformed, Marcus transforming, Sarah standing frozen, staring at the tapes as if hypnotized. He was the only one still fighting, still recording, still thinking clearly. And then he thought about his footage, hours and hours of footage, all stored on his camera's memory card. Documentation of everything that had happened tonight. Proof. But proof of what? And proof for whom? If he escaped and shared this footage, how many people would watch? How many would dismiss it as fake, as creative fiction? But how many would watch it in the dark, alone, and open another door? The entity's shifting face moved closer to Tyler.
You're the documentarian, the skeptic, the one who didn't believe. But you've recorded everything, haven't you? Every second, every angle. You've created the most complete record yet of what happens when someone watches the tape. Tyler's thumb hovered over the delete button. One press, that's all it would take. Delete everything. No footage, no video, no more doors opened. But he couldn't do it. Not because the entity was stopping him, because he couldn't bring himself to destroy his best work. Everything he'd learned in film school, everything he'd practiced as a videographer, it was all in this footage. Perfect composition, perfect lighting, perfect documentation of the impossible. It was his masterpiece, and he couldn't delete his masterpiece. The entity laughed, and it was the sound of wind through empty buildings, of static on dead channels, of whispers in abandoned places. You see, this is why we chose you, all of you. You're creators, sharers, documenters. You can't help yourselves. The footage exists, therefore it must be shared. The story exists, therefore it must be told. And in the telling, in the sharing, in the watching, we grow stronger. Tyler lowered his hand from the delete button. The gray began to spread across his skin.
Sarah was the last one unaffected, the last one still completely human. She had pulled dozens of tapes from the shelves, reading their labels, trying to find a pattern, a weakness, anything that could help. There has to be a way, she muttered. Every system has a flaw. Every entity has a weakness. I just need to find it. The entity watched her with something like amusement, still looking for the scientific explanation, still thinking there's a rational solution. Sarah ignored it, reading label after label. Patient numbers, session numbers, dates, all spanning from 1962 to 1987. 25 years of recorded sessions. 25 years of Dr. Holloway documenting patients who could see through the veil. And then she found something. One tape was different, older than all the others. The label was in different handwriting, more careful, less desperate. Patient 1, Session 1, First Contact. This is where it started, Sarah said. This is Dr. Holloway's first recording, before he knew what he was doing, before he opened the door. She looked up at the entity. What happens if I destroy this tape? If I destroy the first recording, the first bridge? Does it collapse everything? Do you lose your connection? The entity's face stopped shifting. For the first time, it held still, settled into an expression that might have been concern. Don't, it said, and for the first time its voice was singular, not a chorus, one voice, uncertain. Sarah smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. That's what I thought. Destroy the first bridge, and all the others become unstable. No first tape, no original connection, no anchor point for you to exist in our world. The entity moved toward her, fast, but Sarah was faster. She threw the tape to the ground as hard as she could. The plastic case cracked, the tape inside split, and then everything started to scream. The tape room began to tear itself apart. Not physically, the walls weren't crumbling, but reality itself was breaking. The space between things was collapsing, folding, inverting. The entities screamed, all of them. Every figure in the hospital howled with voices that shouldn't exist, sounds that hurt to hear, frequencies that made teeth ache and vision blur. Marcus, Emma, and Tyler, all three of them frozen in mid-transformation, the gray spreading across their skin but not completing, began to scream too. Sarah held her ground, watching as the broken tape began to smoke, not from heat, from something else. The recording itself was burning away, erasing itself from existence.
The entity with the shifting face was on its knees, its form flickering in and out of visibility. "What have you done?" it gasped. "The bridge, the anchor. Without it, we're unmade. Without it, we're nothing." "Good," Sarah said coldly. The entities began to fade, not quickly. It was a slow unraveling, like watching tape dissolve in acid. They flickered like bad television reception, becoming translucent, then transparent, then simply gone. The gray on Marcus, Emma, and Tyler's skin receded. Their eyes returned to normal. They collapsed to the floor, gasping, returned to themselves. For a moment, Sarah thought they'd won. And then she saw the other tapes.
Every tape in the room was glowing now, brighter than before. The destruction of the first tape hadn't ended the bridges. It had broken the original anchor, yes, but there were hundreds of other tapes, hundreds of other bridges. And without the first tape's stabilizing influence, all those other bridges were opening at once, uncontrolled, unfiltered. The entity's laughter echoed through the room, even as its form continued to fade. "You thought destroying the first bridge would save you, but you just removed the governor, the control. Now everything comes through at once. Every patient, every session, every moment of seeing, all of it, now." And then the entity was gone, but what came next was worse. The tapes began to play. All of them, simultaneously. There were no VCRs, no televisions, but the tapes played anyway. Images projected directly into the air, hundreds of recordings overlapping, creating a chaos of footage and sound. Every patient Dr. Holloway had ever recorded, every session, every moment of them seeing through the veil, all playing at once. And through each recording, something was looking back. Marcus covered his eyes, but it didn't help. The images were playing behind his eyelids now, inside his head. Patient after patient, session after session, all of them seeing, all of them knowing, all of them becoming windows. Tyler tried to run, but the doorway was gone. The walls were shifting, the room expanding and contracting like a breathing thing. There was no exit. There had never been an exit. Emma curled into a ball on the floor, hands over her ears, trying to block out the voices of dozens of patients speaking over each other in a symphony of madness. Sarah stood in the center of it all, realizing her mistake. She hadn't saved them. She doomed them. And worse, she doomed everyone who would ever watch their footage. Because Tyler's camera was still recording, capturing everything. The tapes, the projections, the horror of hundreds of bridges opening at once. This footage, if it ever got out, would be the most powerful bridge yet. Anyone who watched it would experience what they were experiencing right now, would see what they were seeing, would open themselves to not just one entity, but hundreds. "We have to destroy it," Sarah shouted over the cacophony. "Tyler, your camera! We have to destroy all the footage!" But Tyler wasn't listening. He was staring at his camera screen, transfixed. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever filmed." Sarah grabbed his camera, tried to pull it from his hands. Tyler held on tight, the two of them struggling. "Let go!" Sarah screamed. "It needs to be seen!" Tyler screamed back. "People need to know!" The camera fell to the floor. The screen cracked, but the red recording light stayed on. Still filming, still documenting, still creating the bridge. Marcus forced himself to think clearly through the chaos. There had to be a way out. There was always a way out. This was just another puzzle, another challenge, another problem to solve. "The fire!" he shouted. "Dr. Holloway tried to burn it all. If we start a fire, if we destroy the tapes..." "It won't work," Sarah shouted back. "He tried that. These tapes don't burn. They survived the first fire." "Then what do we do?" Sarah looked at the tapes, at the projections, at her friends, and then she looked at Tyler's camera, still recording faithfully despite its cracked screen. She understood what needed to happen.
"We stay," Sarah said quietly. The others turned to look at her. "We stay," she repeated, louder now. "We don't leave. We don't let the footage out. We become the final bridge, the terminal point. We watch until we're transformed, and then we make sure no one else ever finds this place." Marcus shook his head. "That's insane. That's the only way," Sarah interrupted. "Don't you see? Dr. Holloway escaped. He burned the hospital and ran, but he left the tapes behind. He left the possibility for others to find them, to watch them, to open new bridges. His escape created all of this." She picked up Tyler's camera. "But if we stay, if we let the transformation complete, we become guardians. We keep anyone else from finding this place. We seal it from the inside." Emma stood up, wiping tears from her face. "I don't want to die here. I don't want to become one of those things." "We're not dying," Sarah said. "We're transforming, becoming something else. It's not the same." "It's worse," Emma shouted. "Death would be better than becoming a doorway for those things." Tyler grabbed his camera from Sarah's hands. "No, I'm not giving up. There has to be another way. We'll find it. We always find it." But even as he said it, he could feel the change beginning again, the gray spreading, the widening of his eyes, the voice in his head that wasn't his own, whispering, showing him things he didn't want to see. They tried to resist. For hours they tried. Marcus smashed tapes against the walls, but each destroyed tape just made the others glow brighter. The bridges were too strong now, too numerous. Destroying them individually was impossible. Tyler filmed everything, documenting their descent, perhaps thinking that if it was recorded, if there was evidence, someone would understand, someone would fix it. But his eyes grew wider with each passing minute, his hands steadied, his breathing slowed. He was becoming a better camera, a better window. Emma prayed. She prayed to every deity she'd ever heard of, begged for intervention, for salvation, for someone to save them. But no answer came. Or perhaps the answer was the silence itself. This was beyond divine intervention. This was something that existed in the spaces where even gods didn't look. Sarah was the last to fully transform. She fought longest, using her analytical mind to try to understand, to find a pattern, to discover the flaw she knew must exist. But there was no flaw, or rather, the flaw was humanity itself. The need to watch, the need to know, the need to document and share and connect. Those weren't bugs in the system, they were the system itself. As the gray spread across her skin, as her eyes widened beyond natural limits, Sarah's last thought was a bitter one. We did this to ourselves. We always do. By the time the sun rose on October 16, 2023, there were no longer 4 human beings in Holloway Psychiatric Hospital. There were 4 bridges, 4 windows, 4 guardians standing eternal watch over the tape room, making sure no one else would find what they had found. And Tyler's camera, still recording, its battery long dead but somehow still functioning, documented it all. If you have watched this far, I want to say thank you for staying tuned to the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and also share to encourage us to make more hidden stories like this. 3 days later, when Marcus Webb's parents reported him missing, along with his 3 friends, police traced their last known location to Millbrook County. It didn't take long to find Marcus's van, parked behind the dead trees near Holloway Psychiatric Hospital.
A search team was assembled. 6 officers entered the hospital at 2 p.m. on October 19th, equipped with flashlights, radios, and body cameras. They found the extension cord running from the van through a window. They followed it through the hospital, through the corridors, down to the basement. They found the common room where the television and VCR sat, unplugged now, covered in dust, as if they'd been sitting there for years instead of days. But they couldn't find the 4 friends. The search team combed every inch of the hospital. They brought in search dogs. They used thermal imaging cameras. Nothing. Marcus Webb, Sarah Chen, Tyler Brooks, and Emma Rodriguez had vanished. The official investigation concluded that the 4 had been victims of foul play by person or persons unknown. Their equipment was found, their van was found, but the 4 explorers were never seen again. At least, not by anyone who survived to report it. What the police didn't find, because they didn't look in the right place, was the tape room. The sealed room in the deepest part of the basement. The room that appeared on no architectural plans. The room where 4 figures now stood in eternal vigil, unmoving, unblinking, guarding the tapes that had consumed them. But the story doesn't end there, because Tyler's camera was never recovered by police. The official report states that all recording equipment was found in the common room, but that's not true. Tyler's camera was still in the tape room, still recording, and when its memory card was finally full, when it had captured every possible second of footage it could hold, something happened. The camera uploaded the footage. Tyler had set his camera to automatically upload footage to the cloud whenever it detected a Wi-Fi signal. It was a feature he'd activated months ago and forgotten about, a backup system for if his equipment was ever lost or stolen. At 3:47 a.m. on October 20th, when a police officer's radio signal happened to bounce through the hospital in just the right way, Tyler's camera detected what it interpreted as a weak Wi-Fi connection. It uploaded 8 hours and 23 minutes of footage directly to the YouTube channel Forbidden Explorations. By the time anyone realized what had happened, the video had been live for 6 hours. It had been viewed 847 times. The video was titled, "We Found Something Terrible at Holloway Hospital, Real Footage," with a thumbnail showing a blurred image of something tall and thin in a hospital corridor. The algorithm loved it. Horror content, mystery, missing persons, real footage. It hit every metric for viral content. Within 24 hours, it had 50,000 views. Within 48 hours, 200,000. By the end of the first week, the video had been watched 2.3 million times. Reaction channels picked it up. Is this real? Missing explorers footage explained. Holloway Hospital tape, real or fake? Every reaction video was watched by thousands more. Every analysis, every breakdown, every frame-by-frame examination brought more viewers, more watchers, more bridges. And everyone who watched the full video reported the same things, the same sensations, the feeling of being watched, the sensation of something in the corner of their vision, the inability to stop thinking about the footage. Some reported nightmares, vivid, detailed dreams of walking through Holloway's corridors, of finding the tape room, of watching the original tape that Marcus and his friends had found. Others reported something worse. They reported that the more they watched the video, the more they understood it, the more they saw things in the footage that hadn't been there before. Figures in the background, faces in the static, eyes watching from impossible angles. Psychologists called it mass hysteria. Sociologists called it viral suggestion. Scientists called it a fascinating example of how fear spreads through social networks. But 37 people who watched the video went missing in the 3 months following its upload. 37 people who vanished without a trace, leaving behind only their computers or phones, still playing the video on loop.
By January 2024, the FBI had opened an investigation, not into the original 4 missing explorers, but into the pattern of disappearances linked to the video. Special Agent Rebecca Torres was assigned to the case. She was a specialist in cybercrimes and online influence campaigns. Her initial theory was that the video was part of an elaborate scheme, possibly a cult recruitment tool or an ARG gone wrong. She watched the video once, just once, to understand what she was dealing with. That was her mistake. Agent Torres wrote in her official report, "The footage appears to be authentic. Timestamps match known disappearance dates. Content is disturbing but does not obviously contain subliminal messaging or hypnotic patterns. Psychological effect on viewers is significant but not immediately explicable." What she didn't write in her official report was what she experienced that night after watching the video. The dream of walking through Holloway Hospital, the sensation of descending to the basement, the discovery of the tape room, and the 4 figures standing there, unmoving, their wide eyes tracking her movement through the dream. One of them had been Marcus Webb. She recognized him from his missing person photos. And when she walked closer, when she looked into those 2 wide eyes, he spoke in a voice that was his own and yet not his own. "You watched. Now you're one of us. A bridge, a window, and through you it sees everything."
Agent Torres woke up screaming. She requested immediate reassignment from the case. Her request was denied. She was the lead investigator. She had to see it through. 3 weeks later, Agent Rebecca Torres went missing. Her car was found parked outside Holloway Psychiatric Hospital. Her phone was in the driver's seat, still playing the video on loop. She was never found. The FBI closed the investigation shortly after, citing lack of evidence. The official conclusion was that the disappearances were coincidental, not causally related to the video. But they also issued a quiet recommendation that the video be removed from YouTube for violating community guidelines regarding dangerous content. Agent Torres woke up screaming. She requested immediate reassignment from the case. Her request was denied. She was the lead investigator. She had to see it through. 3 weeks later, Agent Rebecca Torres went missing. Her car was found parked outside Holloway Psychiatric Hospital. Her phone was in the driver's seat, still playing the video on loop. She was never found. The FBI closed the investigation shortly after, citing lack of evidence. The official conclusion was that the disappearances were coincidental, not causally related to the video. But they also issued a quiet recommendation that the video be removed from YouTube for violating community guidelines regarding dangerous content. On February 18, 2024, the original video reappeared on YouTube. Not on the Forbidden Explorations channel, which had been deleted, but on a new channel. A channel with no name, just a string of random characters. The video had 0 views, fresh upload, but within an hour it had 10,000 views. Within a day, 100,000. The view count seemed to climb faster than was naturally possible, as if people weren't just watching it, as if something else was watching it, as if every bridge that had been opened, every person who had been transformed was counting as a viewer. The video is still up,
YouTube keeps removing it, but it keeps coming back. Always on new channels, always with that same thumbnail, always with an upload date that seems to predate its actual posting. As of today, the various copies of the video have been viewed over 50 million times. Holloway Psychiatric Hospital was officially condemned in March 2024. The Millbrook County government erected a fence around the property. Warning signs were posted. No trespassing. Structural hazard. Violators will be prosecuted. But the fence doesn't keep people out, because people still want to see. They still want to know. They watch the video online, and then they want to visit the location. They want to find the tape room. They want to see if it's real. Most don't find it. Most get scared and leave, or they're caught by local police and escorted off the property. But some do find it, and those who find it don't come back. The official count is 89. 89 people who have gone missing in connection with Holloway Hospital since October 2023. But that's just the official count, the ones whose disappearances were reported and investigated. How many others went missing? How many people had no one to report their disappearance? How many were drifters, loners, people whose absence wouldn't be immediately noticed? The answer might be hundreds or thousands, because the video keeps spreading and people keep watching, and every person who watches becomes a potential bridge, a potential doorway, a potential guardian standing eternal watch in that room.
There's a researcher, we'll call her Dr. Martinez, though that's not her real name. She spent the last year studying the pattern. Dr. Martinez has never watched the video. She's careful about that. She knows what happens to people who watch it all the way through. But she studied the metadata, the view patterns, the correlation between video views and disappearances. And she's discovered something terrifying. The disappearances aren't random. They follow a pattern, a geometric pattern. When plotted on a map, the locations of disappearances form a shape, a specific shape that's growing, expanding outward from Holloway Hospital like a ripple in a pond. And at the rate the pattern is expanding, Dr. Martinez calculates that it will cover the entire eastern seaboard within 5 years, the entire country within 10. What happens when the pattern is complete? Dr. Martinez doesn't know, but she has a theory. She believes that each disappearance, each transformation, each new bridge opened is part of a larger structure, a vast geometric pattern being built person by person. And when the pattern is complete, when enough bridges have been opened, the barrier between our world and whatever exists in those Fing places will collapse entirely. Not just in isolated locations, everywhere. Dr. Martinez has tried to warn people. She's published papers, she's contacted law enforcement, she's reached out to tech companies begging them to permanently remove the video from all platforms. But she can't prove anything. Her pattern is just a statistical correlation. The video's just creepy footage from an abandoned hospital. The disappearances are just coincidental tragedies. And even if she could prove it, even if she could make people believe her, would it matter? The video's already out there, already spreading, already opening bridges that can never be closed. The pattern will complete itself. It's just a matter of time. But there's something else. Something Dr. Martinez discovered in her research that she's never told anyone. Something that keeps her awake at night. The video views don't just correlate with disappearances, they correlate with the timestamps on the original footage. Every time someone watches the video at exactly the time matching the timestamp on Tyler's recording, something happens. At 11:37 p.m., when Marcus inserted the tape into the VCR, anyone watching the video at exactly 11:37 p.m. reports seeing something extra in the footage, a figure standing behind the group that wasn't there before.
at 3:24 a.m., when the entity appeared in the hospital corridor on the original tape, anyone watching at exactly 3:24 a.m. reports that their screen glitches just for a moment, and in that glitch, they see something looking back at them. Dr. Martinez has a hypothesis. She thinks the video isn't just a recording, it's a ritual. And every viewing at the correct timestamp is a repetition of that ritual, a reinforcement of the bridges, a strengthening of the pattern. Which means that right now, as you listen to this story, somewhere in the world, someone is watching that video, watching at exactly the right timestamp, opening another bridge, adding another line to the pattern. And the entities on the other side, they're watching back.
If you could see the tape room today, and please understand, you shouldn't, you must never try, you would see that it's no longer empty except for 4 transformed explorers. There are dozens of figures now, maybe hundreds. Every person who watched the video and was drawn to Holloway, every person who found the tape room, every person who stayed and transformed. They stand in perfect silence, arranged in that same geometric pattern that Dr. Martinez identified on her maps, arranged like nodes in a vast circuit board, like neurons in an enormous brain. And the tapes? They're still there, still glowing, still playing their recorded sessions into the air. But now there are new tapes too, new recordings.
Every person who transforms becomes a new tape. Their perspective, their experience of watching and changing is automatically recorded and added to the collection. Each one a new bridge, each one a new doorway. And somewhere, somehow, those tapes are being digitized, uploaded, added to new versions of the video. The footage keeps growing longer, more comprehensive, more complete. Marcus Webb's original video was 8 hours and 23 minutes long. The current version that keeps reappearing on YouTube is 47 hours long. In a year, it might be 100 hours or 1,000. Eventually, it will contain everything, every moment of every person who ever watched, every transformation, every bridge, the complete record of humanity's self-destruction through its own curiosity.
You might wonder what it's like for them, the transformed ones. Marcus, Sarah, Tyler, Emma, and all the others who came after. Are they suffering? Are they trapped in endless torment, aware of what they've become but unable to escape? The truth is stranger than that, and worse. They're not suffering. They're not trapped. They're awake. Patient 7 tried to explain it in her sessions with Dr. Holloway. She said that the entities weren't monsters. They were just beings that existed in a state humans couldn't normally perceive. They lived in the spaces between, in the thin places, in the gaps in reality that most people never noticed. And when a human became a bridge, when they transformed, they didn't lose themselves. They expanded. They gained the ability to see those spaces, to exist in them, to understand reality at a level that human consciousness wasn't designed to process. Marcus Webb, who wanted to be seen, is now seen by everything. Every moment, every angle, every possibility. He exists simultaneously in the hospital and in every screen showing his video. He sees through the eyes of everyone watching. Marcus filmed everything, his enthusiasm undimmed. "This is gold," he said. "This is exactly the kind of thing viewers want to see. The mystery, the warnings, it's perfect setup." But Emma was still staring at the wall. "What if it's a real warning?" she asked quietly. "What if we should listen?" Marcus laughed. "Then we wouldn't have a video. Come on, Em, you know this stuff isn't real. It's just atmosphere, spooky ambiance left by people who came before us." Emma didn't look convinced, but she followed as the group moved deeper into the hospital.
And Emma Rodriguez, who just wanted adventure, got more than she ever imagined. She exists in every thin place now, every gap in reality, every moment between moments. She is the bridge itself, the doorway, the passage between worlds. They don't want to be saved. They wouldn't return to normal human existence if given the choice, because from their perspective, human existence is the limited state, the prison, the blindness. They've seen through the veil, and you can't unsee that. You can't go back to not knowing.
So, here's the question you should be asking yourself right now. Why are you still listening? This story has gone on for a long time. You could have stopped listening minutes ago, tens of minutes ago, but you didn't. You kept listening. You wanted to know how it ends. That curiosity, that need to know, that's what the entities count on. That's what makes you vulnerable.
You might think you're safe because you're just listening to a story. You're not watching the actual video from Holloway Hospital. You're not looking at the real footage. But are you sure? How do you know this video you're watching right now doesn't contain elements from the original? How do you know that the images you've seen weren't pulled from Tyler's footage? How do you know that right now, by listening to this story, by engaging with this content, you haven't opened a small bridge of your own?
Feel that sensation? That feeling like something's watching you from the corner of your vision? The urge to look over your shoulder? Is that just the power of suggestion? Is it just your imagination primed by a scary story? Or is it something else? Patient 7 said the entities see through cameras, through recordings, through any medium that transmits images and captures attention. This video you're watching right now, it's a recording, it's a medium, it's transmitted through screens and speakers directly into your consciousness. You're watching, and through your watching, it's watching back.
I should probably tell you the truth now about this video, about me. My name is David Chen. I'm Sarah Chen's brother. When Sarah went missing, I started investigating. I found Dr. Martinez's research. I contacted other families of the missing. I watched the original video. Yes, I watched it, all 47 hours of the current version, and I saw my sister standing in that taped room, transformed, a bridge. But I also understood something. The pattern wants to complete itself, and the fastest way to complete the pattern is to get more people to watch, more people to understand, more people to become bridges. So I made this video, this horror story narration that would be perfect for YouTube automation channels, perfect for the algorithm, perfect for spreading far and wide. I embedded images from the original footage throughout, small pieces, fragments, not enough for YouTube to flag and remove, but enough to carry the essential patterns, the geometric shapes, the timestamps, the bridges. Every person who watches this video all the way through is being prepared, primed, made ready for when they eventually encounter the full footage from Holloway Hospital. And they will encounter it, because the algorithm knows what you like. It knows what you watch, and if you watch this video all the way to this point, it will recommend similar content. Eventually, it will recommend the original.
You might be thinking, but I can just not watch it. I can stop now. I can close this video and never think about Holloway Hospital again. Can you, though? You've listened this far. You've engaged this deeply. The story is in your head now. Tonight, when you're trying to sleep, you'll think about the tape room, about Patient 7, about Marcus and his friends standing transformed in the darkness. You'll wonder if any of it's real. You'll want to check, just a quick search, just to see if Holloway Hospital exists, if there really were disappearances. And once you start searching, once you start digging, you'll find the video.
or it will find you.
I'm in the tape room now. I came here to find my sister. I came here to understand. And I do understand. Sarah was right. The pattern will complete. Nothing can stop it now. Too many bridges are open. Too many people have watched. The geometric structure is almost finished. When it completes, and Dr. Martinez estimates that will happen in about 6 months, the barrier between the thin places and our world will dissolve entirely, not just in specific locations, everywhere. The entities will be able to exist fully in our world. Or perhaps more accurately, we'll be able to perceive them existing here. Because they've always been here. They've always been in the thin places, watching through the gaps. We just built them better doorways, better windows, better bridges. And when the pattern completes, when the barrier falls, everyone will be able to see them. Not just the transformed ones, everyone. Humanity will achieve collective enlightenment, will understand reality as it truly is, not filtered through our limited human perception. Will we survive that enlightenment? Will our minds be able to process existence at that level? Sarah thinks not. She thinks most people will break. Their consciousness will shatter like glass under impossible pressure. But some will adapt. Some will transform willingly. Some will become bridges, not because they watched a video, but because they choose to. And in a strange way, maybe that's evolution. Maybe that's the next step for humanity, moving beyond our limited perception into something broader, stranger, more aware. I'm going to join them now. Sarah, Marcus, Tyler, Emma, and all the others. I'm going to watch the original tape, the one labeled Patient 1, Session 1, First Contact. The one Sarah broke, but which has been repaired by the entities because they need it to exist. And when I transform, when I become a bridge, I'll add my perspective to the collection. My recording will be digitized and added to the video, and this narration you're listening to right now, it will be part of that video too. Which means that by listening to this, you've been watching through my eyes as I walk toward my sister, as I pick up the tape, as I insert it into the VCR that shouldn't work but does. You're seeing what I'm seeing right now. The tape is playing. Patient 7 was right about everything. It sees you. Right now, through this screen, through this recording, through the bridges we've all built together, it sees you. And now that you've watched this far, now that you've listened to this story, now that you know about the pattern and the bridges and the thin places, you're part of it too. Welcome to the pattern. Welcome to the understanding. Welcome to the space between. We've been waiting for you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for opening your bridge. We'll see you in the tape room soon. Or perhaps we're seeing you right now, right where you are, through the screen you're watching this on. Turn around. Is something there? In the corner? In the shadows? Of course there is. There always was. You just couldn't see it before. But now you can. Now you will. Forever.
This video was intended as a work of horror fiction for entertainment purposes. The Holloway Psychiatric Hospital, while based on real abandoned asylums, is a fictional location. No actual disappearances are associated with any such place. However, if you are experiencing any of the following symptoms after watching this video: persistent feeling of being watched, inability to blink normally, seeing figures in your peripheral vision, hearing voices speaking in chorus,
overwhelming urge to visit abandoned locations, dreams of basement corridors and tape rooms. Please seek help from a mental health professional immediately. And whatever you do, don't go looking for the tape room. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Does it?